Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Joy Tawai, and I am joined today by Andrew Gogarty, our Chief Security Evangelist, and Harry Pearson, UK EMEA Channel Manager from Redshift. And we are going to take you through a webinar on how to prevent email-borne ransomware. Before we proceed with the webinar, you might be wondering who is Seacon and what we do. We are protecting our clients from cyber threats since 1999. Seacon is a cybersecurity service provider for private and public organizations. At Seacon, we help you achieve a complete cybersecurity transformation that is purpose built for your organization. We help secure organizations of all sizes, industries, and locations through the entire cycle of cyber. We do this through our security services, from 24 by 7 monitoring and SOC as a service to fully managed services, and systems integration, technology, resale, and professional services. And now, let me hand this over to Andy and Harry, who will discuss how to prevent email-borne ransomware. Over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Christine. So I'm sure everyone that's on this webinar today will know ransomware is a big problem. It's a growing problem, and there's been plenty of media coverage around organisations that have been caught out. And unfortunately, there's no silver bullet. There's not one tool that you can go out and buy, implement, and then you're safe from ransomware. It's a multi-vector, multi-disciplined approach. Combination of tooling, people, and process, as always with best practice cybersecurity. But today we're going to talk about one of the things you can do, and that's around putting yourself in the best place as possible to prevent that vector of email being a delivery mechanism or a way for ransomware to find its way into your organization. Depending on which analyst you talk to, circa 90% of threats start with an email, typically a phishing email. And that's why we wanted to cover email today with and what you can do. And we've brought our partner, Harry from Redshift, and he'll be able to tell you how Redshift can help with that. So let's look at email as a vector. So typically what we see is it's straight off the bat, it can be used as a payload mechanism, a way to deliver ransomware into your organization. So that could be an email that lands in a user's inbox, and there's an attachment in that email that has the ransomware as part of the attachment. That's what I mean by weaponized attachments. The other common payload delivery is there could be a link in that email, and if a user clicks that email, they end up directly at a website hosting malicious code, and that's used as a mechanism to automatically download the malware onto your machine. The more common approach that we see is actually what we know as phishing, whaling, and that's trying to trick the user into doing something to normally harvest information or send that user to a payload delivery site. But ultimately, the most common things that we're seeing is phishing attempts to harvest credentials. By credentials, I mean usernames and passwords. And the real problem, which one of the things that Redshift will talk about today, is harvesting your Office 365 credentials, your Active Directory credentials. And what we're seeing a lot of at the moment is something called exact domain impersonation. That's basically where a user will receive an email, but it appears to come from your genuine domain. So any kind of user awareness training they've had to check that domain to make sure that there aren't any ones instead of L's and things like that are completely wiped off the table in this scenario. So unfortunately, if you don't have a Dmarc record and a policy of reject, which I'm sure Harry will cover for you guys shortly, you have no way of preventing a bad actor from directly spoofing your exact domain name. And what we typically see there is it will be an email that appears to have come from your help desk to your users with some sort of prompt and urgency around resetting their password. They click the link and end up filling out a form, and they think they're changing their password, but what they're actually doing is disclosing their old password and what they believe they want their new password to be, but what they've actually done is given the bad actor their password. That's then used at a later date to basically do unauthorized access into that email account, and then use the established trust that's in place there to either send ransomware payloads to other users in the business or third parties you work with, or sending them those malicious links that lead to drive-by download sites. So the exact domain spoofing is a problem if you don't have Dmarc policy of reject. But we still have the problem of lookalike domains, and that's where an L might be replaced by a 1 or vice versa, where the hackers have registered a domain name that's very similar to your genuine domain name, and this is where we definitely recommend looking for things like user awareness training to try and spot these things. But Redsift have a tool to give your users an extra layer of prompt, so we're not just relying on whether they're going to look at that or not. There's some useful information that's served up to the user in this scenario that gives them a clue that this might not be coming from the domain they think it's coming from. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Harry, and he's going to show how Redsift can help with some of these email as a vector for ransomware use cases.
Awesome, thank you for that, Andy. I think that's a really nice way to transition into what we do at Redsift and how we look to, block different types of illegitimate emails, spoof emails, etc., coming into your organization and also into your, potential supply chains inboxes as well that can, hold ransomware, which your employees, etc., can interact with, and therefore an attack can be launched. So Redsift, let's move on to us as a company. So Redsift, we've been around for about 7 years now, and we've now built a platform on which we've developed 3 different solutions, all looking to address some of the typical issues around illegitimate emails. So in terms of the situation we're in at the moment, if we look at some of these key stats which we've built our kind of company off, we can see that a very high percentage of network compromise attacks typically start with a phishing email. And we're looking to not only block those emails, but help to identify your employees and users on not to interacting with them. We've also seen quite a high increase in the different types of phishing emails that are coming out, new variations of these types of attacks. So again, we're always making sure that we're keeping our technology ahead, one step ahead of the game, ensuring that our customers have got the most up-to-date type of technology to detect and block these types of attacks. And finally, why is this also important to businesses? Not only is there a very large cost associated to a typical sort of business email compromise scam, as well as a ransomware attack, you've got to look at if your company is seen in the eye of the public to be associated and involved in these sorts of attacks, or victims to these attacks is a better way of putting it. There's a very large brand reputational damage to you. So moving on now, another big piece around what we're very passionate about here at Redsift is that secure email gateways have really been there for the last, let's say, 6 years as the key pillar for companies for email security. They serve a very important role for filtering out and blocking inbound illegitimate emails to companies. But there's all sorts of other attacks out there where you need to have complementary solutions, which Redsift offers, to ensure that you've got a layered approach of email security, to ensure that your company has got everything it has in place to help your employees, protect your domains, and also always looking at protecting your customers as well. So what are the 3 solutions that Redsift offers? We have OnDMARC, OnDOMAIN, and OnInbox. So on the far left here on Dmarc, this is looking at protecting our customers' exact domains from impersonation attacks using the Dmarc protocol. So the Dmarc protocol has been around for about 10 years now, and when it is fully set up, it means that no unauthorized sending services can send illegitimate emails from your company's domain. And in a minute, we'll look at a little bit more detail around how that works. We've then got OnDOMAIN, which pairs up quite nicely with OnDMARC, as OnDOMAIN then goes out to scan the internet to look for any similar lookalike domains or any similar brand logos which could be being used in a malicious way on behalf of your company, again to attack directly into your organization, as well as out to your supply chain and customers. And then finally, we've got OnInbox, which I think is the closest related blocker to some of the issues that Andrew went through earlier. So employees actually interacting and clicking on very sophisticated phishing emails OnInbox uses a threat detection method where it adds traffic lights and banner warnings into employees' emails to tell them whether or not those emails are safe to interact with. And in a minute, we'll look at how that works. So moving down to the next slide, we have got OnDMARC here. So this is our first solution that we sell. And OnDMARC in this example is helping to digest customers' DMARC reports so they can be presented nice and clearly back to them. And in the example on the left here, we can see some of the reports that we provide to them, which clearly outline where the potential threats are coming from your organization. So what does Dmarc actually do? When it's fully configured, it prevents any unauthorized sending services to be able to send illegitimate emails on behalf of your domain. And our solution helps customers minimize the time it takes to get to Dmarc protection. So we average that in about 4 to 8 weeks, and we help our customers configure everything with confidence that there is no worry around them blocking potential legitimate emails. Once this is all set up, your employees will only receive legitimate emails from your own domain. So if people were trying to do a CEO impersonation attack, that would get blocked before the email even reached their inbox. But also you need to look at the wider picture here that your customers and other companies within your supply chain will no longer receive any spoof emails from you. We've got a fantastic support team that make this whole process easy. And we've got a number of really good use cases and case studies which we can send out afterwards to show some of the big name companies we've helped with this. And we run, for this example, a 2-week or up to a month's POC, which we can help set up for you. Another interesting piece with Dmarc is a new email security standard called BIMI. So BIMI allows customers to add their brand logos into their emails from their legitimate emails, from their domain. So again, this is an extra stamp of approval so that your employees, as well as your customers and companies in your supply chain, can trust that that email is actually from you. In the example here, I've put seconcyber.com as the example, and we can now see their logo appearing here in their outgoing emails. Why is this relevant to OnDMARC and Dmarc? Because you need to have Dmarc fully configured in a protection policy that we call P-Reject or Quarantine 100% to qualify for this. It also is a nice way of helping to uplift your open rates of outgoing emails. OnDOMAIN, which is one of our new solutions. So this actually is going out and proactively uncovering and helping you to disarm potential lookalike malicious domains that could be doing targeted phishing attacks back into your organization or again out to your customer and supply chain base. So that could be, a different variation of how your domain is spelled. So we actually analyze in excess of 140 million domains a day and also subdomains. We use machine vision based brand detection to discover illegitimate use of brands assets. And this also helps us to speed up takedowns. And on top of that, we have partnered up with a takedown service, which then allows you to, once you've identified these malicious domains, to bring them down so they can no longer continue to send malicious emails out pretending to be you. So this will also be another way of ensuring that these kind of typical attack vectors of phishing emails don't come into your organization, and also is helping to protect your further brand reputation against any kind of abuse, etc., that could be going on without you even knowing. And then finally, we have OnDOMAIN, which is compatible with Office 365 and G Suite. And this is really the key one, I would say, in the actual, blocking employees and stopping employees from interacting with these emails that could contain malicious ransomware links. So what does OnInbox actually do? So it adds in these threat detection, these traffic lights and banner warnings into your employees' emails to tell them whether or not that email is safe to interact with or not. So it analyzes that email and it adds in, let's look at the 3 traffic lights, A, C, and T. So A stands for authentication, and this looks to see if the email that your employee has received has any email authentication configured to it, i.e. SPF, DKIM, or Dmarc. If it has none of those, it will flag it up as red because emails with 0 authentication are more likely to be malicious. C is then coming up as content, and this is very interesting when looking at ransomware. This is scanning to see if there's any potential malicious links within that email lookalike links, links that take appear as one thing but take you to another website, etc. And it does the scanning of those to then tell you that this link is malicious. It would then also add in a banner warning, say this is the specific link within that email that's malicious, to ensure that an employee is stopping and thinking before interacting with that. And then finally, we have T, which stands for trust, which I think is a really cool piece in this, and I think it really targets the social engineering phishing attacks. So trust is something, in real life terms, that is earned over time. The more you interact with an end user, trust is earned. The tool learns that. So the more you interact with someone, they're then added to your trusted network. If you were to then receive a spoof email or a lookalike email from somebody that was within your trusted network, it would catch it at that point and say this is someone that's similar, or looks very similar to someone in your trusted network. The tool learns exactly who is within your trusted network. It scans back to 6 months worth of data within your inboxes. We've also added in features that use natural language processing to analyze the language within the email to pick up on any common phishing themes. These are all customizable to how you want it to work, and you can add in actual, unique messages within the banner warning. The next piece of this is we've actually added in a report functionality. So once you report a potential phishing email as a user, you as the, let's say, IT manager who looks after OnInbox will get an alert to this, and it would take them to their OnInbox manager page, which we'll have a look at now, which is the next very cool piece of this service. So OnInbox gives you a nice breakdown of your organization and exactly all the different domains that your employees are interacting with. You've got all sorts of different toggles here, so we call this our supply chain breakdown. The number of days, the dates, the type of traffic, and the sort of display warning here. So let's change this to authentication, or Dmarc actually is an interesting one to look at. We can see the number of emails received, what their kind of average authentication, content, and trust rates are like. We break it down by some of the top 7 traffic domains that we receive. These circles straight away draw my attention to large red circles, are showing some of the domains that we interact with the most, that in this case have 0 Dmarc and email authentication configured to them, therefore more likely to be more risky to interact with as they can be impersonated. As we come down here, we then get a breakdown of the specific domains, how many emails we've received from them, and what their average authentication, content, and trust rates are like. As well as that, we can see what the common topic of those emails are and the action taken. So if we filter this by what ones have the lowest email authentication and therefore are potentially the most risky, we could look into one like this. Which is loading, there we go. We can see 2 users have interacted with this, clearly a phishing email, sorry, a phishing domain. We can then get more information around the actual end users here. So these are the 2 end users that have interacted with this email, and have straight away that's highlighting to you where the potential risk might be within your organization. So if we go back, let's have a look at another one of these. Where there's a few more examples of emails received. And again, you can see what their topic was taken, what the topic of the email was, and the action taken. So it's really allowing you to drill in to your current employees and the domains that they're interacting with to start unpicking where the weak points in your organization might be and how you address those specific individuals and warn them of those emails. Now, once an email is reported as being potentially malicious, it will come into this remediation tab. And this is where it becomes very cool. So you will then get an unresolved, let's say, new issue with a reported email. It gives you the subject line, the sender, the first reporter, i.e. the user at your company, the time and date received, and the time and date reported. You can then click into this email, review some more detail around it, such as the subject line, the date, how many times it was reported, why it was reported, i.e. a threat, spam, or a false positive. You can then get more information around the authentication, the content, and the trust results, and the users reporting that email. If we now click to the remediation feature here, you can choose an action to take on this email. You can delete that email out of that end user's inbox or any similar emails from any other inboxes. You can also add it to a threat list or add it to a trust list. So every time potentially it appears in employees' inboxes, that domain again, or that email address again, it will appear as a threat. So these are the available actions. They give you a little bit more detail about them underneath. You can add notes to each one of these, and you can log that action taken as well. So let's hit delete email, do it from the sender and the domain as well. So any emails containing the content that was in there. So if you had a specific malicious ransomware link, you could then pull that out of any other users' inboxes. Now, once that's all done, you can then click resolved at the end of this, and then that is that one done, and it will go back to your report, and it will now be, it won't be in there anymore. So it's now in the resolve list here. So that is the remediation feature, and that is actually actively allowing you to protect your employees and stop them interacting with these malicious types of emails. There's a few other features within here which we can quickly run through, where you can whitelist and blacklist specific email users for your employees, as well as domains, and you can bulk upload. A lot of organizations that we work with that had pre-existing malicious links where they knew it was kind of common ransomware links that were sent to them. So you can upload those into here. And you can do the send, sorry, that's for senders, and you can do the send for content, as in the links we just spoke about then. So there's a lot of customizable features in here. Deployment-wise, you can bulk upload this to all of your employees or only do it in specific, subset groups, etc. And then in the settings, there are a lot of nice features that you can do to make this solution work best for your company. External email ban is an interesting one that a lot of people opt for. We've also got user report management, so that's where it goes to. Inbox risk indicator display mode, so some companies decide to have this in minimal mode, which means that the traffic lights and the banner warnings will only appear when a deemed malicious email comes through, as opposed to it always coming through. And then we've got banner configuration presets. So this is where you can really start to customize what is actually showing up to your employees. So you can add different actual sets of rules in here. So there's a lot to play around within this, and you can name this type of banner warning. So, if the authentication matches a fail, content matches a fail, and trust matches a fail, you then might want to have a certain message written on behalf of that email. You can also add in from the natural language processing feature. If there are emails with a specific amount of urgency added in it, a money-related action, or a topic which is related to ransomware or a transaction, again, you can flag this up and write a specific message in this. One of the big reasons behind us building this is actually a lot down to some of these customizable features. We believe that things like phishing training and education for end users is vital, but it doesn't necessarily provide them with everything they need to be able to pick up and spot these particularly well-constructed phishing emails that we know are getting into organizations, that we know are hiding things like ransomware links, which are actually the most destructive and the best attack vectors that hackers use to get into your organization. OnInbox is your final layer of defense in all of your employees' emails that pick up on these attacks and give a nice, simple banner warning to your employees to tell them not to interact with, and means that they will not then potentially click on these malicious links. So that's really the key reasons behind us building OnInbox. And with this, the new remediation feature means you can actually be proactive and pull out emails from your employees' inboxes. So just a quick recap on what we've gone through. We've got our Redshift triangle here of the different solutions. So on Dmarc, this is showing how vital it is to ensure that your own company's domains are protected so that no one can receive exact spoofing emails from them. Those exact spoofing emails are the most effective ones. Dmarc has been mandated by the UK government in 2018 for all UK government organisations, showing the importance of this protocol. We help our customers set this protocol up quickly and accurately. Moving on to OnDOMAIN, sits in more of that domain security space, scans and looks for lookalike domains. These could be ones that, again, are targeting into your organisation, targeting into your customers, targeting into your supply chain, which need to be brought down. which we use a takedown service for. And then finally, we have OnInbox, which sits within your employees' inboxes to alert them to detect these new variations or specifically sophisticated phishing emails, which they use social engineering phishing attacks for, to tell them not to interact with those emails to keep them safe. All three products interact with each other. They're built on our platform, and they're trying to solve some of the problems that I ran through earlier, as well as some of the problems that Andrew kindly ran through at the start. That's everything from my side. Thank you very much, CCON team, for laying this on, and thank you everyone for listening to this. Anyone who wants more information, please reach out to us. We can provide POCs for all three of these solutions, and we can provide one-to-one demonstrations and more in-depth run-throughs with our team. That's everything from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harry. We would like to thank everyone for joining our webinar today. If you want an offline conversation on how you may prevent email-borne ransomware, please feel free to contact Andy. You can see his contact details on the screen. We are happy to arrange a consultation session to start your journey in protecting your email. We will also get in touch with you after this webinar. Have a good day ahead.